Jeff Brohm's transfer portal tactics are being criticized more and more as of late.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what is going on, everyone? Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. I want to take this time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Joining me on this Thursday edition for his weekly spot is my good friend G Money, former Louisville recruiting assistant Grant Mulligan. What's up, man?
What's going on, everybody? It's great to be back. Not so great to be back coming off 2 losses. Doesn't feel great, man. I honestly does not feel fantastic. But regardless, we're here to talk about Louisville football with you one way or another. So let's break into it.
They say Rome wasn't built in a day, G Money, and it's showing with this episode because for the first time, we turned it over to the fans to conduct the first 2 segments of the buy-sell game. 2 buy-sell statements in each of the first 2 segments, and then the final one will be one where we both introduce one like old times. But I had some people that listen to the show reach out and say, can we introduce some segments for buy-sell? And I'm like, of course. Now, I'll be honest with you, they're very brutally honest, and it's going to take some real conversation, but let's get right on into it. Grant, with the word that Louisville's high school recruiting class isn't really all that good on paper. They just lost Josh Johnson, one of the better recruits in the class. Louisville starting out 3-2 has a lot of people questioning Jeff Brohm's roster tactics. The first buy-sell introduced is this: Jeff Brohm's portal tactics aren't sustainable for success at Louisville. Are you buying or selling?
That's tough. I don't want to be too caught in the moment. Because this same portal tactic won us 10 games and had us in the ACC championship last year. Let's remember that. Mm-hmm. Let's remember that the same roster building strategy got us the 10 wins and an ACC championship appearance last year. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be too caught in the moment. But is it sustainable indefinitely? I would. So what would I say if I buy? Would that be I buy that it's sustainable? Or if I
no, it would be that you're buying that it's not sustainable, that the statement is saying that it's not sustainable. So you're buying that. If you're selling it, that means you believe it is.
I'm going to buy that it's not sustainable, yes, because I think that there has to be some degree of high school recruiting that is organic. Like when you look around at the major programs, the programs that are perennially in the playoff and stuff, of course, they've got transfers. Everybody's getting transferred now except for Clemson and the schools that can't take them, like the military schools. So everybody's getting transfers. But to live and die that way off of what could be called like rental players, guys who only have 1 year of eligibility, to some degree, you're handicapping yourself in that you don't have people who have spent multiple years in your system unless they're transfers from previous stops, like guys who transfer from Purdue. But then you're running out of those guys because like the more years that pass, those guys aren't out there anymore. It'll have come and gone. And what I was led to believe, and what many others were led to believe, that it made sense. 2024 was never going to be the recruiting class that, like the high school recruiting class that was going to be the emphasis. It's a first year for a staff. It makes total sense. I was told that they were going to go, or I was led to believe that 2025 was going to be the first year that the Brohm and co were really going to hit the high school class. And this year, it looks like they've gone even less into it than the year before. So I don't like. It doesn't make sense to me in that regard. I get that the portal has worked, and there's a lot of great players out there, but eventually, you're gonna get there's too much roster turnover. The institutional knowledge, culture's harder to build. Institutional knowledge makes its way out the door. You don't have guys who have been within the system who can teach the system. If you're keep going this way, if you don't have contributors who've been on your roster for a long time, I'm a huge high school recruiting guy. I've always believed in it. When I play NCAA 25, man, I'm almost exclusively in high school. I'm only taking a couple transfers a year. But no, I don't think it is sustainable because it's good in the short term and it worked for us. Again, I do not want to be a prisoner of the moment. We won 10 games, had a conference championship with this strategy last year. To me, someday you're going to have to build some continuity. High school players who've been in the program for a while.
No, I agree. I think that, to be completely fair, we are living in a time that is unbeknownst to everyone. Everyone's kind of learning on the fly. So Jeff Brohm opting to go with players that can help right away, then banking on players that he gets brought into Louisville and they end up leaving in a year or so because they feel like they deserve more playing time. And then you're sort of up a creek, right? But I'm going to buy this statement as well, but I don't think it's as clear cut and dry because I do believe that utilizing the portal for the majority, I think when I say the majority, I'm talking about over 50%. So if you're recruiting the portal over 50% to fill your roster, I'm okay with that. It's when you're using it like 85 to 90%. That's when you can't go one way or the other. I think that you need high school recruiting to supplement. Keith Wynn tweeted out, Louisville has 12 commits. 2 of them don't have another FBS offer. 3 of them have 1 or 0 other Power 4 offers outside of Louisville. Right now, if you're getting a small class, you want to build up, with more quality. And I know that not everyone's going to pan out, but there has to be some level of continuity because if there's not, the chances of these types of players that you're bringing in, and not every player is going to flop. You're going to have some ones that are diamonds in the rough, but ultimately you still have to you have to bring in some continuity. I think especially positional value. Like I think if you could recruit the high school ranks really well for like offensive line and defensive line, that's where you can succeed because the portal's really good with the skill positions. It's tough with offensive line, and we're seeing that. And we're seeing that this season. So scouting becomes challenging because you're not scouting for a couple years. You're scouting for a couple months in the portal. So we're about to be beyond the Scott Satterfield roster holdover. A lot of those guys are on their way out. And at this point, it looks like at the moment, Jeff Brohm is going to have to completely transform the whole roster. He brought in, 30 transfers this past year? And that's with the returning guys. So again, it comes to a logical standpoint that, yes, if you're having to reflip your roster every single year, eventually it's going to come back and hurt. So I'm going to buy it that it's not sustainable. I do agree that Louisville should be utilizing the portal a ton, but they still need to be, prioritizing high school recruiting and bringing in quality in that regard. So we move on to the second buy-sell segment. It pertains to this season. Grant, the second buy-sell, the UVA game this Saturday will define the season.
Again, I'm going to sell this because I think that this is a prisoner of the moment thing, just like what I was talking about on the last one. I get it. We're in a slide right now. It feels bad. Virginia is a team that we should beat. Will it define the season? I think arguably SMU is more season defining than what this Virginia will be, and Notre Dame was more season defining than what this Virginia will be. I just think that this is exactly what I was talking about. This is too prisoner of the moment. And of course, that's not to say that it's without value and that if we win or lose it has no holdings for the rest of the season. But I'm looking at this game in the midst of the rest of our season, and I just don't like. We could say Miami is more crucial the next week. I would argue going to Boston College on Friday night, like looking at the remaining schedule, this and Stanford are probably our least consequential games that we have left in terms of just sheer
Maybe,
importance.
but if you lose those games, you could also argue the devil's advocate if you lose to Virginia. But I think a conditional, there's no conditional buy sell. You either have to buy it or you
No,
sell it. And
I'm
I'm going to sell it as well, just because, like you said, if you win this game, it's not like it turns everything around. But I also do acknowledge the devil's advocate to where, look, you can't lose to Virginia, man. It gets scary if you lose to Virginia, because at that point, I don't want to look too far down the road, but bowl eligibility might ultimately be in question if you lose to Virginia. And that's going to lead us into the next buy sell. Is bowl eligibility, is that a lock moving forward? Well, the next buy sell is pertaining to that. We'll answer coming up on the next segment of Locked on Louisville. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the official ticket marketplace of Locked on Louisville for all your sports, music, theater, comedy events near you. If you download the app, Vince Carter, it's over. Because ultimately, you're going to see all the great features, the panoramic views from your seats, the all-in pricing feature that you can toggle on to eliminate the surprise fees at checkout, the protective ticket insurance that you have available, and also the Game Time lowest price guarantee, which means Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. That's all on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. And moving right on along into the second segment of this buy-sell edition of the Locked on Louisville podcast, Grant Mulligan, former Louisville football recruiting assistant, joining us for his weekly spot on the show. Grant, we teased it before the break. Let's get right on into it. The third buy-sell, I told you, it's getting brutally uncomfortable with some of these buy-sells to the point where we're like, dude, could you not have waited until we got a win before you start all this? Because the vibes are kind of low right now. Third buy sell. Louisville will lose more games than they win in the remainder of the regular season.
I sell that. I don't see a scenario, and I guess I could be proven completely wrong. I think dropping SMU is really tough, considering that, and that's what I was talking about before. It was a prisoner moment to say that Virginia was more important. SMU was the more important.
I agree.
Win or loss in that moment. So I think that is the season definer.
Grant, let me ask you this. Does Louisville beat Miami?
No.
Does Louisville beat Clemson?
Are you going to call me crazy if I say yes?
No, but I would be kind of shocked a little bit. Does Louisville beat Kentucky?
No.
Okay. So you're at 2 losses right there.
Those are our last 2 remaining losses, in my opinion.
Okay. Because I wanted to see who you had Louisville losing to.
I'd say we lose 4 games. In my opinion, right now we lose 4 games. We win Virginia, lose Miami, win Boston College, win Clemson, Stanford, Pitt, lose to Kentucky. And I'm gonna get crucified in the comments for saying we lose to Kentucky, but
no, you won't. You shouldn't. Kentucky's the better team right now.
Yes, 100%. If a Louisville fan can honestly watch the games that we play and the games that Kentucky plays, and that we deserve to win against, or that we're favored to win against them right now, you're very wrong.
Take the red glasses.
I think we lose to Miami, we lose to Kentucky.
Grant, I'm uncomfortable.
Me too.
You look at this schedule, and I think you lose to Miami. And my gut is telling me that you're going to lose to Clemson because you've never beaten them before, and it's arguably the best defensive line you're going to go up against. And you couple that with the offensive line struggles that you've had with Clemson's offense seemingly being reborn. And then we know how Kentucky plays, and that sort of just is the Achilles heel for this Louisville team. Is it far-fetched to suggest that you lose all 3 of those games? No, it's not.
You're 7-5 in that scenario. Let's say if those are your only 3 losses.
And then you're also banking on Louisville not dropping the ball in Charlottesville, up in Boston, where the Cardinals still haven't shown you that they can defend a mobile quarterback. You have to play Pittsburgh, who knows how good they truly are.
Pretty good.
I'm going to sell it. I don't feel good about it. I'm going to sell it because I'm an optimist, still holding out the hope that you can split one of the Clemson, Miami, and Kentucky games like you say, so you have that cushion. But anyone who says that they're completely like worry-free at this point, I question whether you're watching games, because some of the same mistakes that happened against SMU were the same mistakes we saw against Austin Peay. Something's got to change. And when I say something, I mean multiple things. So I'm going to buy it, but it's almost like you buy it and it's like you leave the store and you're like, ooh, was that the right decision? Hopefully. Or I'm sorry, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it.
You're selling it.
No, I'm going to sell it. But, it's like you sell it and you're also like, ooh, did I make the right decision to do that? Hopefully you and I get proven right. The last one is downright, I think, as prisoner of the moment as prisoner of the moment gets. And this is from someone who always looks to be the contrarian in things for what I've known them to be. Louisville is currently 3-2. 2 losses that they shouldn't have, 2 losses to where they have a bunch of total yards with nothing to show for it. Small mistakes add up, just like they did over the past 4 years. Buy or sell, Louisville is not in a much better place with Jeff Brohm than they were Scott Satterfield.
I don't even want to answer this. This is asinine.
Dude,
why do you ask that? Like, you're right. This is
prisoner of the moment, buddy.
The biggest prisoner of the moment that you can. We won 10 games last year, and we were in the NBA tournament.
I mentioned that to this person, and they said the competition was lacking severely, and a lot of them were one-score wins to the point to where it could have gone a lot different.
Winning one-score games, I'm getting worked up thinking about this.
I got the same way, and I wanted to introduce it because this is what some of the fan base is starting to think, bro.
This is asinine. This is like...
So you're buying it?
Yeah, obviously. Give me Satterfield back and his god-awful Cincinnati.
What are you running on 3rd and 11?
Right? Huh?
What are you running on 3rd and 11?
I'm running a halfback draw, actually, is what I'm going to run on 3rd and 11. Or outside zone.
You going straight left?
Yeah, let me do that. This is getting me upset, like, to think about this right now. Like, I hate that question was even asked.
Yeah.
What is Satterfield doing in Cincy right now? What happened last year at Cincinnati?
I guess it's just coming from the spot of, well, our recruiting's worse than it was under Satterfield.
Not in the net.
From a high school ranks, and we're 3-2 with a better team. Look, this is as short-term and prisoner of the moment as it gets. How quick I think people now, it's not a large portion of the fan base that really pushes this narrative, but there is like a very small sliver of people that are like, well, we should have just kept Satterfield. Satterfield wanted to leave at almost every turn. Jeff Brohm wants to be here. How many times? And Jeff Brom's offense is exponentially more exciting than Scott Satterfield's. Like, I don't think people realize just how bad, like, Father Time has really skewed the perception of the differences between the two. It's not even a comparison. You have to sell this, and there better be no type of contemplating back and forth.
I'm not just selling this. I'm flushing this one down the toilet. Whoever asked this question, I legitimately shame on you. Like, I have nothing else to say to that. If you're a fan,
what aspect of the program would you look back on and say, yeah, we were better off under Satterfield than Brohm? Like, what aspect?
Arguably offensive line play in certain years. Year one, when we had Mekhi Becton.
Again.
Yeah.
Bobby Petrino.
Arguably. And I even say arguably.
Yeah. This made me mad listening to it. When I saw
That's how you chose to make me mad about it too.
I thought it was a joke. It was a legitimate statement. And I'm like, I'll answer this one time. But think about these statements before you introduce them, man, because this is a tough one. And I try to be fair, man. Like, I try to be as unbiased as I can be and see all viewpoints, but I'll be honest with you, I see this statement and I don't agree with it whatsoever. I don't even think one aspect of this program is better off. Maybe everyone was the being united. We were so united in wanting him to go that maybe that's the part of it. But nonetheless, I won't infuriate Grant much longer until I absolutely wash him in our version of the buy sell coming up. Jeff Brohm's offense, it's better than people think. Will it remain that way through the duration of the season? We'll be right back on today's episode of Locked on Louisville. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a large return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 and bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. When you go to FanDuel.com, you'll see that Louisville's about a touchdown favorite over Virginia on Saturday. I want to know, what do you think about that? Would you be comfortable betting Louisville's spread, or are you going to go with Louisville's money line? Check out the player props. Put together a nice same-game parlay and couple it with the FanDuel 30% profit boost, and boom, you can make yourself some extra cheddar on Saturday, hoping, obviously, that Louisville wins. Visit FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Grant, I'm so sorry for getting you worked up over that. I'm glad that we're on the same page on that one. I'm hoping we're on the same page in my buy or sell, but nonetheless, I'm going to get us started. Louisville's offense currently rated number 15 in total offense. They're averaging about 470 yards per game, give or take. Offensive line play is struggling. You're playing against better defenses. Monroe Mills is going to miss an extended amount of time. My buy or sell is that Louisville, at the end of the regular season, will still have an offense in the top 20 in total offense.
So, I sell. All right, I'm going to give you a why.
I would hope. I mean,
I say this every time. I don't know why I do this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please justify it. Like, I'm not going to ask for it.
You know what? I'm just going to start answering buy or sell, and I'm not going to explain it. And then you're going to look. Your show don't get bad. Anyways, I'm selling that. I really worry about injuries piling up in this situation, especially on an already struggling offensive line. I think that the run game is going to continue to regress unless we see something else. I think losing Maurice Turner hurts a lot more than many people think. I know we really didn't get to see a whole lot of him this year, but Don Chaney's been largely ineffective. No disrespect. Isaac Brown is good, and he's shown a lot of flashes. He's been better than good, honestly, at times. But he's a true freshman. He's 18 years old. There's going to be bumps along the way. And also, if the line is not getting him push, it's not like he's a big physical back who can like, he needs space to be created to be at his maximum effectiveness. We see this now with like Miami and Devin A-Chain. That's like my mental comparison is how monstrous he was whenever that, like, they had Tua and the offense was like functioning and they were able to get push and it just, everything worked better. So I see a player like that. I worry about him being able to be effective as a pure runner. I think still as a pass catcher, he would be a tremendous asset. And I think he's got a great career ahead of him. But Keywan Brown, I guess he could definitely be a help in that regard. He's more of a physical runner. But I think it's going to be in the run game mostly. I think there's just too much. There's going to be too much attrition if we keep losing pieces on offensive line, and if the offensive line continues to not play up to standard. I think that the pass game, well, I mean, even then, losing offensive line play and pass protection is going to slow down the pass game, and having a lackluster run game to support the pass game is going to allow pass rushers to just pin their ears back and go. So right now I'm selling it. I think that there's too many, not to say that we can't still be effective, and I think we'll be still in the upper half of NCAA just by virtue of Brohm being the one calling the plays. But I see it more as I think there's going to be a regression to run game. Personally, love to be proven wrong. I think we got some really talented guys back there, but it takes more than the backs to make it work. And I think without that run game, we're going to slowly start to slip down. Pass game's going to be harder to make work. Play action's not going to be as optimal.
I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. I think that the more chemistry that Chuck builds up with Colin Lacey, I think it's going to be able to open up some things more. I think Isaac Brown is a star in the making, man. I do understand the offensive line issues. I think Isaac Brown has already elite level vision. He's shown it the persistence and patience to be able to hit the right gap. I personally think Louisville's going to start utilizing tight end play more. Hopefully that is the case. That should be the case.
I hope so.
But I think at the end of the day, I do think, they moved the ball well against Notre Dame until they got to the 40. So they've got to figure some things out situationally, play calling wise. And I think if they do that, they still can be very, very good. I'm going to buy it. What is your buy sell?
Okay. Do you know that was the first time in the previous 4 buy sells we agreed? We had the same answer on both of them. That was our first disagreement of the episode. Just wanted to point that out before I get into mine. Mine is very controversial. Honestly, I don't even know if I buy it, but we'll get to that in a moment. I'm going to say Louisville will bounce back on defense and hold Virginia to under 30 points, something that has only happened once this season in Virginia's games.
That's a pretty interesting one. You look at what Louisville has been able to do for the rest of the opponents. I'm actually probably going to buy that because one thing that Louisville's been able to do is bend but not break. As much as they've been getting gashed yardage-wise, I feel like the ability to hold teams to field goals has helped this team, and they have shown the ability to make some second-half adjustments. If you hold SMU to 27 – you hold them to 34 points. That's not really all that great. I say hold it like it's the main thing. Notre Dame at 31, SMU with 34, Georgia Tech with 19. They probably should have scored more than that. I think it's going to be right there. This is a very good buy-sell. I do think that they're going to hold them to under 30 points. I think you're going to see some sort of adjustments because you can tell from Jeff Brohm that he's not very happy, and it seems like a lot of that frustration was based toward the defensive coaching staff. So I'm going to buy it. I think that they do hold them to under 30 points this week.
Okay, I'm really on the fence with this one. I'm gonna say sell for the sake of content and for the fans. Okay, I'm gonna take the other position. Virginia has only been held under 30 points once this season. Now, granted, it's not like a lot over 30.
Who have they played? Look at who they played.
All right, let's
Boston College, they scored 24 points.
Yes. And that's the only. I think isn't that 24 the only one that they?
No, Maryland they got held to 30.
I was wrong. I was the fans. I'm very incorrect. I apologize.
They scored over 30. It was 31 and 34. That's a touchdown.
31 and 34. Okay, so it's still touch. So that's where I base my line from is because they have 3 games of over 30 points. Like I said before, it's not like they're scoring 40, but I think that given what has gone right for them and the fact that Calandria has mobility that we have not shown any sign of being able to stop, and quite frankly, we just haven't made enough splash plays on defense. Whether that be sacks or picks or turnovers of any variety, especially sacks, pass rush has not been productive enough, and they're just doubling Gelati because no one else has stood out. We thought Jamel Logan would be that guy. Hopefully he still can be.
I did not mean to do that.
For the video folks, he switched to sides and it threw me off. Sorry for our Spotify or Google Play
Apple
listeners
Podcast.
Or Apple Podcast listeners. Wherever you may be listening, thanks for tuning into the show.
Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
I am that guy. So I'm going to sell it, not by a lot. I was really on the fence because I think that it could very easily. I'm proven wrong by just a touch, like it's 28, and I was wrong by.
But that's sad. Like you either hit it or you don't. It's like there's no way to like justify it any other way. Like if it goes over, it goes over. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
So,
but I'm
going to say sell because we don't create enough splash plays. I think that's going to be the difference.
I think that Louisville's going to do as much as they can to simplify things. Jeff Brohm's like, dude, we're making things way too complicated. And that does have a huge effect is if you give your defense even the slightest bit of doubt as to what their assignment is, that small moment of hesitation can be critical. And it's huge in creating broken coverages. And I'm hoping that is the case. I'm hoping they show any ability to defend a mobile quarterback in the first half. Louisville has not covered a first half spread this season. Shout out to I forget the Twitter account that came from. It's one of the betting accounts. That's a Louisville. I'm not really sure, but nonetheless, I'm going to buy it. That is going to wrap up this Thursday edition of the show. We will be previewing Virginia on the Friday show. What's at stake, players to watch for, keys to the game, much, much more. Be sure to stay tuned to Locked on Louisville. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.